Can everyone hear me? Is the mic working? Fabulous. Thanks again, Jen. I was just joking earlier that this is my first class in the forum building. I made it 8 semesters, just avoiding the space, but it actually is quite nice in here. So happy to be here. Happy to be with BiSci once again. So today's topic is home. When you hear that word, what comes to mind? What are things that feel like home to you? You just want to shout them out. What feels like home? Parents,
Sunshine.
sunshine,
Comfort.
comfort. If you're in the back, shout loudly so I can hear you.
Love.
Love, food. Anything else?
Safe.
Safe,
Different.
siblings, sleep. So lots of really great things. Our families, people that we choose to spend time with, maybe a location, things that happen there. So food, love. If we're to look at the definition of home, this is the first thing that pops up on Google. A house, apartment, or other shelter that is the usual residence of a person, family, or household. And 2, the place in which one's domestic affections are centered. This feels like a pretty underwhelming definition, given the examples that we just heard, right? Home is different to all of us. There's like maybe 370 of us in this room. And it's going to be different for each person that's here right now. Our unique experiences dictate what home is to us. So sometimes we can choose what home is. Well, all the times we can, but sometimes our experiences kind of push us in a certain direction. Maybe when we think of home, it's a positive experience. It's filled with love and joy and good food. Or maybe it's more negative. Can also be anywhere in between. How can we choose what our home is? Something to think about. To adjust our earlier, maybe lackluster definition of home, for the purpose of today, home in a broad sense is your connection to yourself, your connection to others, and your connection to a specific environment. So that can be the earth as a whole, maybe your house, maybe your hometown, all of those. How does this show up in BiSci 3? So we've started to explore our connection this semester, our connection with ourselves and others and the environment through our weekly journals and discussion posts, maybe starting to come into more awareness with all of those things. Today, we're going to focus on music and how does it connect us. Have a really challenging question as we get started. Just raise your hand if you've ever listened to music before. I think we have something in common. That's a great start. So going way back to our ancestral home, we bring up birds. How did our ancestors find their home? And we might be indebted to birds more than we know. Gordon Hempton, the sound tracker, he's a researcher of sound out in the world and the human experience and our impact on sound. Hearing is vital for all animals' survival. But what is the ear listening to? So I was curious about the human range of sound. We listen from the very low frequencies of about 20 hertz to very high frequencies of 20,000 hertz, but we aren't equally sensitive to all of those frequencies. There's this narrow bandwidth from 2,500 to 5,000 hertz that are the resonant frequencies of our auditory canals, where we have super sensitive hearing. Somehow that bandwidth in our ancestors' environment was listening for something which was essential for our ancestors to survive. And as it turns out, it's a perfect match for birdsong. Well, why would our ancestors have to hear birdsong? Remember, super sensitive hearing. They would have to hear it coming over a very long distance. We come from a nomadic ancestry, and if we hear birdsong, then we're listening to an area which has food, water, shelter, and an extended favorable season long enough to raise the young off the nest. Birdsong is the #1 indicator of habitats prosperous for humans. And to add to that, knowing that we have this super sensitive range of hearing, the human voice sits way outside of that. And birdsong fits right in there. We are connected with Earth and all of the other species that live here. Now, music connection with nature. Music appeared very early on in the human experience. Found remnants of bone flutes about like 40,000 years ago, remnants of ancient drums, and throughout all of history, we've utilized nature and parts of nature as resources to build instruments and to make sound, whether it's wood for guitars and violins and cellos, or taking metals from the earth and combining them into alloys of brass to make trumpets and trombones, or just carving wood to make a recorder. The fundamental way in which we create sound on musical instruments is connected with nature. So we're going to do a quick listening here. And I ask to listen closely. So maybe close your eyes. You're going to listen to some sounds of nature. Fully in tune to your sense of hearing with your eyes closed. What is it that you notice? What is it that you think or wonder? We're going to wait for Scout to log in to the Spotify so it'll work. I do. Yeah. There we go. Lots of two-factor authentication over here. So as you listened to that, is there anything that came up for you? Anything that you noticed? Just want to raise a hand. Yeah, it was peaceful. Did that feeling of peace change? Did the feeling of peace change as we listened? A little bit. Anyone else? What is something that you noticed?
I feel like it was peaceful until like you heard like a car or like footsteps and it was kind of like a disturbance of nature from like people.
Where is that person
Yeah.
speaking from? I can't find it. Ah, thank you. Yeah, so hearing the human interaction with the environment changed what it felt like. Anyone else? Anything that stuck out to you? Yeah. The bird was getting closer to the mic. So the proximity to the things in the recording changed throughout. Can take one more. So, how does music connect us with nature? We can hear it in nature, maybe through the bird song or the wind in the trees, crickets, those natural sounds. And contact with nature while being creative has been shown as being an effective way to increase our individual connection with nature. And while that's maybe not something that works for everyone, studies have shown that creative activities in nature increase connection to nature. So we're going to do some more listening. Art has always been intertwined with nature throughout history. Any genre of music, there's maybe some connection that you can find. Most artists, you can gauge some of their connection with the environment in their art. Our first listening is going to be to a piece written by Claude Debussy. He was a 19th and early 20th century composer and composed this piece based on water. It's titled Reflections in the Water. So knowing that that piece was written based off of his connection with water, could you hear that reflected in the music? Is there anything that stuck out about the piano playing that connected to the description of water?
The way the piano kind of flowed up and down, getting like really loud, almost like rushing water, and then quiet to like a trickle of water, and then like that also could be like the waves of just like water on a shore, just like the different ways that water moves. The piano was kind of mimicking that.
Yeah, I absolutely agree. And I think there's lots of different ways to interpret that. The rushing, the flowing of water. We have a hand up in the back.
I just kind of thought it was a very light piece, and the kind of lightness of it kind of reminded me of a reflection of water, in a sense.
Anyone else? Did that speak to you? Have a hand down here.
It kind of reminded me of spring with like rainfall and just water drop kind of like dripping off of a leaf or something like that into a puddle and just the sound it kind of makes.
Yeah, thank you for sharing. And I think it's interesting how similar all three of those were, but also so different, bringing up the idea of spring. And this connection can go much deeper. Our next listening will just be a quick one, is a piece by Olivier Messiaen, who is a 20th century kind of wacky contemporary composer, another pianist, and he wrote a whole series based off of birdsong, translated somewhat literally onto the piano. Saw a few interesting reactions from people with that one. I saw some chuckles and some people listening intently with their eyes closed. If anyone felt something really kind of interesting after hearing that, do you want to speak to it and maybe why you reacted the way you did? Yeah.
It kind of made me laugh when I was listening to it because I could imagine like different types of birds like running around and it just kind of like was silly with like the different notes and like thinking about like smaller birds and like loud ones and it was cool. Yeah.
Yeah, thank you, Reese. So kind of giving us that visual imagery through the music.
I play piano and that sounded like what I do when I get frustrated. Um, to me, it sounded like either a pianist who was tired of practicing or a cat walking on a piano. So like there's a lot of dissonance.
Yeah, I agree. Did it sound frustrated to you? Yeah. Did anyone else feel that way listening to it? Like maybe a little bit tense? I think some of that can be attributed to the fact that it's trying to put something so natural, like a bird, and replicating it on an instrument that it's really challenging to kind of translate the same kind of effect that bird song has. So, time to switch gears for our next listening. Music can also be a powerful tool for certain causes. So, this next listening is by Pete Seeger. He was a very influential environmentalist and an artist who helped spearhead the folk revival movement of the 50s and 60s. This song is called My Dirty Stream, and I think it's quite self explanatory.
that dirty stream. Still I love it, and I'll keep the dream that someday, though maybe not this year, my Hudson River will once again run clear. It starts high in the mountains of the north, crystal clear and icy trickles fall, with just a few floating wrappers of chewing gum, dropped by some hikers to warn of things to come. That Glens Falls 5,000 honest hands work at the consolidated paper plant. 5 million gallons of waste a day. Why should we do it any other way? Down the valley.
So listening to that example, was there anything maybe different in how the connection to nature was shown as opposed to the two earlier listenings?
I think a lot of the lyrics were very on the nose about how upset he is about the pollution and how he hopes that one day the river's going to be clean again.
Yeah.
I think the words contrast with how the melody makes you feel, which I think he probably did very intentionally, and I think that's interesting.
So what did the melody make you feel?
The words make me feel sad, but the melody, I feel like I could just listen to it without processing and feel like more upbeat.
Yeah, I think that's a really interesting take on it. Thank you. So being pushed to create art because of something happening in the world that is making you feel a certain way and your connection maybe to that specific thing. Pete Seeger lived in Beacon, New York, right on the Hudson River, and did a lot of work in trying to clean up the Hudson River and was really heavily involved in a lot of groups and the mission to clean up the Hudson. Another example in kind of a similar vein is Big Yellow Taxi, written by Joni Mitchell. Also a very popular folk artist from a similar era. Big Yellow Taxi is somewhat of an environmentalist anthem, and she wrote it on a trip to Hawaii after being struck by the view of a large parking lot. So I think that's another great example of someone's deep connection to the environment that caused them to create art. And these are just a few short examples, but I think that this list never really ends. If you were to look at any kind of art, I think that you can pull the artist's inspiration and influence from the environment. Art is connected to nature. A quote from Yo-Yo Ma, who's kind of a world-class cellist. When we are emotionally and empathetically tied to the natural world, we are reminded at a more profound, instinctive level of our interdependence with it. Culture has a vital role to play in this most existential moment in the history of our species, a responsibility to restore our connection. It reflects our care and our love for this world, a love that will lead to better health and more long-term sustainable thinking. And that quote really spoke to me. I think it does a great job of kind of connecting to the BiSci experience. Really, the goal of this course is to give you the tools to choose to explore your connection with yourself, your connection with everyone in this room, outside of this room, and in your lab class through hopefully some really powerful and meaningful discussion in lab. Our music connection to ourself. Artists, scientists, and indigenous communities generally agree that we are a part of nature. If we feel disconnected from nature, we are disconnected from ourselves. Music, it can have a great impact on our development, shown to improve imagination and creativity and help with the understanding of abstract concepts. So using music to help piece together extraordinarily complex emotions is a tool often used in therapy, through music therapy. It has a strong influence on our identity, maybe finding yourself through music, whether by listening or through creating it on your own. And it might reflect values and beliefs and qualities that you resonate with. And I think it's that which connects us with specific songs. And I find that I often choose to listen to specific kinds of music or specific artists when I'm feeling a certain way. And I imagine that many of you do as well. I see some nods out there. So we're going to pass the mic around. Just give an example of a time where you felt one way and you chose to listen to music based off of that feeling, or when music connected with a way that you were already feeling.
I really like to listen to a certain genre of music whenever I'm doing work. So, music that kind of keeps a similar volume. And I think that matches the way that I show up when I'm doing my work. When I want to be just like a mellow state. I don't want to be like too hype or, too down. So, it's upbeat, but it's also kind of slow and it's steady, which I like.
So it helps you maintain maybe a level of focus.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, thank you. Riley had a hand over there.
I think it kind of, for me, works in two ways. One, I use music sometimes when if I'm not feeling upbeat or anything like that, I can use music to kind of change my mood and make me feel more upbeat. But I think the most impactful times are when I'm feeling something and I don't even really know what it is or how to describe it. And then I put on music that happens to connect with that. And it just kind of puts a voice and a feeling to what I'm going through. And I think that that's really powerful.
Thank you. I agree. Anyone maybe have a specific example of a song that makes them feel a certain way or that they connect to?
I don't know if this works as an example, but I write music, especially when I'm in a sad or even just high emotional state. So yeah, it can be a mediator, but for me, it's also a coping mechanism.
Are there times in which you felt that to be really helpful for you
Yeah,
to
help me.
digest the way that you're feeling?
Yeah, it helps me process what's going on because it takes me a bit sometimes to process my emotions when I'm stuck in those certain situations. So writing music and music in general helps a lot.
Yeah, thank you for sharing. So music can really bring us into a greater connection with ourself, whether it's consuming music or doing the creation of the music. And it can also connect us with others. It's often said that music is a language. And I find that to be true, but maybe in more of an abstract sense. There's languages all across the world that drastically different than to what many of us probably think of as like spoken English. So languages that use whistling, that if we listen to them kind of mimic bird song, remembering that our ears are attuned to that kind of specific frequency range of bird song. Languages that utilize tones, so different pitches that can change the meaning of words and phrases. Drumming as a way to communicate in certain cultures, and jazz music as a language. Studies have shown that when jazz musicians are trading improv solos, so creating music on the spot, back and forth, that the same parts of the brain light up as when they're having a conversation. So speaking, the brain lights up the same way as when they're playing an instrument with other people, sharing ideas and thoughts and feelings, just in a different way. Daniel Levitin, a neuroscientist and musician, says that the musical brain is what created human nature. In his book, The World in Six Songs, while explaining the social tensions of groups, he says that to relieve social tensions in the early days of humans, that synchronous, coordinated song and movement were what created the strongest bonds between early humans, and these allowed for the formation of larger living groups and society as we know it. So creating that sense of connection, diffusing tension, helps connect us and bond us together. Listening to music and singing together has been shown in several studies to directly impact our neurochemicals in the brain, many of which play a role in that feeling of closeness and connection. There's been kind of a pretty great decline in communal singing, still really found in like religious contexts. If you go to church, might sing every week and have that be a part of that culture. But otherwise, it's kind of uncommon, especially in the United States outside of our like K-8 music education experience. You're probably not singing together very often, unless maybe there's a good cover band at the first, or you've had a beverage or two and you really want to sing some karaoke with your friends. We're maybe not singing all that often. So it's not really a common experience anymore. Though a way that it comes up for us is through concerts and live music, or especially at Penn State at sports events. So singing and cheering together, kind of the same effect. I'm going to pass the mics out again. If you've ever watched live music or using a sporting event as an example, did you feel connected to the rest of the audience? That group dancing and singing? And what emotions did that bring up for you?
I mean, I've been to a game in Boston and the seventh inning stretch. I mean, Sweet Caroline, like everybody sings it together. Everybody has like a sense of camaraderie, and you just get lost in the song and you just sing it, whether you're a Yankees fan or a Red Sox fan, you just sing it.
And what did that feel like to you to be in that environment?
One with everybody, You're just enjoying the beat, the melody, just getting lost in the words and just the rhythm of the song.
Yeah, thank you. I think feeling one with everyone is such a great way to describe that and such a powerful feeling. You have a hand in the back over there.
Last May, I was at a George Strait and Chris Stapleton concert, and I'm sure any of you that have been to concerts have had that moment where they stop singing, they let the crowd start singing, and it was just a really good moment looking around the entire stadium, just knowing like everyone was in unison and singing. Just makes you feel like part of something bigger, and it's just a really good moment that brings everything home.
Thank you. So feeling part of something bigger is key there. We have time for one more if anyone has a powerful experience that they want to share.
So last June, I went with my father to an AC/DC concert, and when I was there, it was like a overwhelming experience of nostalgia and like being a kid again when my dad was showing me his favorite band, and I could see it like with everyone in the audience how we were all like nostalgic and adrenaline pumping, just singing all the songs.
Feeling of being a kid again, that sense of childlike wonder and connectedness with everyone else. So with all of those positive attributes of singing together, it's kind of weird that it isn't something that we do very often. So we're going to do it right now. Surprise. Probably not something that happens very often in the forum building. Can you make it full screen, please? You might have to minimize it first. It's that one. And then, yeah, there we go. So we're going to do this in kind of a repeat after me style. I'm going to sing a line, and then you're going to sing it back. And we'll kind of go through the whole song that way. So it'll sound something like this. I'll do both parts just to demonstrate. No, it's darkest, it's darkest before the dawn, before the dawn. This thought keeps me moving on, like that. Does that make sense? So as I sing it, you just repeat that back. Darkest before the dawn. Awesome. This thought keeps me moving on. If we could heed these early warnings, the time is now. What early morning, if we could heed these early warnings. The time is now. What early morning. Some say that mankind won't long endure. But what makes them feel so doggone sure? I know that you who hear my singing can make those freedom bells go ringing. I know that you hear my singing. Could make those freedom bells go ringing. And so we keep on while we live until we have no more to give. And when these fingers can strum no longer, and the old guitar, the young one's stronger. And when these fingers can strum no longer, and the old guitar, young one's stronger. Yes, though it's darkest before the dawn, this thought keeps us moving on through all this world of joy and sorrow. We still can have singing tomorrow through all this world, joy and sorrow. We still can have singing tomorrows. Yes, though it's darkest before the dawn, this thought keeps us moving on. If we could heed these early warnings, the time is now, quite early morning. If we could heed these early warnings, the time is now, quite early morning. Really, really great, beautiful singing voices. I think you guys sounded fantastic. We still have 5 minutes. I promise I'll wrap it up in time. So, heard some laughter, saw lots of smiles. That's great. What did that feel like? We don't need to pass the mics around. Just raise your hand and speak loudly if you can. Yeah.
I mean, it was something like different. Like I've never done that in a class before, but it was kind of cool just to like see everyone like come together and sing.
Yeah, something different. We came together, we got it done. Sounded good. Yeah. Sweet and cute. I would agree. What felt good about it?
In the end, it sounded nice. We're all saying something like beautiful. So even if it felt embarrassing, it was like organic.
A little embarrassing, but I think we got pretty comfortable by the end. Take 2 more quickly. Yeah.
Not like a great singer, but like I heard people around me that sounded really good. I think like as a whole, the sounding group's better. It's like interesting because if everyone individually sang, that was fun.
Yeah, I think that connection of all of our voices really contributes to that good sound. Yeah.
I think this song really taught me like that to make action, we gotta realize that the time is now, quite early morning, you know, like you gotta get a lead on it. Time is now.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Absolutely. take one more before the final wrap up here. Yes. Sorry. Yeah, happy in unity. I think that's a really good way to wrap it up. So we've established those key aspects of home, what they might be for you, and how music connects us to our sense of home and connects us with ourselves, others, and the environment. So as you think on this lecture, maybe you text your friends. It's like, wow, that was so crazy. I just sang in my environmental science course. What the heck? And work on your journal assignment for the week. Think about how you choose to interact with music and how does it connect you. Thank you for listening today. Final thing, first extra credit movie of this semester. Tonight, Thomas 201, 7 p.m. Princess Mononoke. It's a great movie. Be there.